Hey everybody, Psychosaurus is here. Welcome back to Age of Empires Online. And today, well, I think it's time we did one of these again. And we're gonna go through my gear, this time on Egyptians. And I believe it's been a while since I did my last one, which was remake for the Greek one. So if you wanna check that one out, sure, go ahead. I also have one that is older version for Greeks. And then one old version for Norse. I think that one is still somewhat okay to look at. But yeah, we're gonna take a look at Egyptians. I am somewhat confident with my gears on Egyptians. Maybe with like few exceptions, but yeah, let's go into it. And again, I'm gonna exclude buildings here because buildings, I believe, deserve some of their own special video for gearing, because yeah, it's just buildings and it's pretty much common among all the civs most likely. So yeah, let's start with Priestess of Ra. And Priestess of Ra is, I would say, the most important unit, well, second most important unit after villagers, that you have at your disposal as Egyptians. And why is that? Because priestesses buff your buildings. They are empowering them by increasing the drop-off. So when villagers are dropping off the resources, hey, you get extra resources. So that's one thing. Another thing, they improve the training rates for the buildings. So that means if you put Priestesses of Ra on your TCs, hey, you're producing villagers faster. Not only that, you also are researching faster. And then also you can build buildings faster if you use priestesses to empower buildings. Hey, villagers will build them faster. That one is, I would say, less useful at level 40 because, hey, once you have your hammer on villagers, you don't really need to use them. So for Priestesses of Ra, this is why I'm using the Scepter of the Pharaoh. And I would say this is the #1 choice for Priestesses of Ra, no matter what. Why is that? So first of all, empower drop off. This is actually very useful because more resources. Obviously, the more resources you have, the more you can build, the more you can train, the more you can research, hey, getting advantage. So having a lot of resources is really good for you. And definitely helps a lot early with your defenses, so you can afford your army, hey, you can afford build houses. So very good thing. Healing, 25% here I have, but yeah, healing. Obviously, if you're planning to use your priestesses as healers, it's also a good thing about this scepter because, hey, I can just take some of my priestesses, put them on healing. If I keep them safe, no need to worry about damage being taken, but still, hey, they might be taking some, but they can heal themselves as well. But yeah, healing from priestesses, I would say, is nice, but it's not like something that I would say most players would use that often, because hey, it's just, you have so many resources, you're just gonna replace the units. It's much faster usually. And then empower train rate, and this one is also very important as the empower drop off, because if we empower the train rate, that means if I place the priestess on TC, I produce the villagers even faster, and if I produce them even faster, they get out sooner, and that means they'll start harvesting sooner, and that means more resources for me, which goes again well with the empower drop off, so that you could say, hey, because I'm producing villagers faster and they are dropping off more, I effectively have even more villagers. So this is why I say the Scepter of the Pharaoh is like #1 choice for your priestesses, because it means more resources, more villagers, which leads to even more resources. So that's why I like the Scepter of the Pharaoh. And this is definitely #1 legendary. Among the epic ones, there are a few ones, but if I had to say, empower drop-off, train rate are the two most important things about the scepter, because that's where you will feel like the biggest power spike on your priestesses. Healing is nice, but it's not like super necessary. Glove armor, I'm using Ropes of Babylon because priestesses cost 100 gold in Bronze Age, so they're quite expensive early, but they are very powerful. So if you can get them out, it's very worth using them, especially with the Scepter of the Pharaoh. So I'm lowering their cost for a good reason, so I can produce as many as possible, especially with the starting gold. But yeah, the cheaper they are, more I can afford very easily. So that's why I prefer the cost, but obviously you could go with something else as well. If I had to say, I would suggest something more defensive, just in case the enemy AI decides to attack them. So like having pierce armor can be very nice, or just pure health can be okay as well. If you wanna like make them move faster, movement speed is also very nice. But I would say the cost is the best option here. And then their religious item, which I'm using the Zahak's idol. Improving their health, which is nice, but really not that necessary. Cost is what I'm really going for. So again, making them cheaper, which is very nice. Again, 100 gold early is quite a lot, so the cheaper they are, the more I can afford to produce. And obviously, if I put villagers on gold, I don't need that many villagers on gold, especially with the empowered drop-off as well. So yeah, lowering the cost is very nice. Another thing is the health regen, so if they take the damage, they can actually heal up, and if they are healing themselves, the extra health regen helps as well. So it goes really well together with their healing. But yeah, if you don't have Zax idol, which if you're someone new and did not have the chance to play the events yet, I would suggest going with the Tablet of the Dead, because priestesses take 30 seconds to produce, which is their base training time. So the faster you can get them out, the better. This would be, I would say, the second best alternative for your priestesses. You don't really need to worry about their health, their survivability, because they can heal themselves, so health is not that necessary. But obviously, if you want health, the idols, I think it's the Osiris back or whatever it's called, I don't remember the name exactly, but it's like the epic religious item that gives a lot of health. Or you can just go to Farafra Oasis and buy the legendary version there. That is an option as well. Health can be nice, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best for priestess, so I would suggest training time. Alternative builds that I would suggest for Scepter, I would say I still haven't tried this, but I want to try this Summer Scepter, the Rust Scepter of the Solstice, with the set sandals, and just make them like produce fast at low cost, I would say, as well, because it kind of replaces the Zax idle cost. That's nice. And use them as a healers, because if you take a look at this, like 50% extra healing, that's quite nice. Not gonna lie. And also, as Egyptian, you have the tag that improves the healing even further, so I kind of want to see this in action. I haven't tried this, so I definitely want to see that. The issue I have with this, as you can see, no empowered drop-off, no empowered train rate, so that's kind of where I see it bad. It's not really buffing your economy as Egyptians, so I would say using Amulet with this would make sense, especially since this is more focused on the healing. The extra range you get from her is also very nice with this, and then you don't really have to worry about the resources, because yes, she's overpowered. No matter what you say, she's just too strong. 20% extra resources from her, that's too strong. But yeah, this could be an alternative. And obviously, cloth armors, anything defensive, maybe with the exception of bonus damage protection, you don't really have to worry about that. I would say it would be better to go with movement speed, the pierce armor, or infantry armor, whichever you prefer. But yeah, this is my build. I would say this is the best you can get. If you don't have Zax's idol, the Tablet of the Dead is very nice. Let's move on. Priest of Ptah. Now, this one, I'm not really like into converting priests that much. They can be nice once in a while, and Priest of Ptah has this one special ability. This is the only priest that can actually convert buildings. Now, it has very long conversion time still, but it's the only priest that can do that. So if you suddenly convert the enemy production, hey, you can use it against them. That's very nice. So, one thing I need to mention, their range is very low, their base range. If we take a look, and what is it? Their base range is 15, yes. So 15 conversion range, that is very low, because if you compare it to something more typical, that's 32. So like less than a half of the typical maximum range. So that's not good. That means these priests need to get close. Obviously there is Celeste Advisor. If we take a look at it really fast, so if I'm not mistaken, convert faster and farther, yes, so 50% extra range there. You get attack, so it can kind of help get the higher range there. So that is an option. But if you decide to use them and you don't have Celeste, then they will have short range. So this is why I suggest using the Inscribed Engineer's Staff, because this is a lot of health you can get on them. There's also some nice maximum range. Siege conversion rate is actually nice, but it's not like super necessary. I would say focus more on the health and maximum range. But obviously, if you go with Celeste, the alternative would be just maximum range. So Petep's Solid Gold Staff would be the best one. Since Celeste already offers like 50% conversion rate, I would not really worry about the conversion rates anymore and just go with maximum range. And suddenly the range can go very high. So yeah, this is an alternative. Now for the cloth armor, I'm using Set's Best Vest. Now why is that? Because they have low range typically, so they will need to get close, and that's where they most likely will take some damage. So that's why I'm like, hey, let's support them with Priestess of Ra, and instead of giving them like lower cost or something like that, let's give them armor, because healing goes very nicely together with armor. So combining them with Priestesses of Ra is a nice option. Then if you have some extra armor, hey, the healing works even better. So that's why I suggest using some defensive cloth armor. In my case, Set's Best Vest, because hey, I'm more worried about the ranged units than like melee infantry units. Especially if I use Celeste, hey, who cares about the melee units? They get converted very fast. But like the ranged units, they can do some damage, so that's why Set's Best Vest. And now Zach's Idol again. Health is nice, that works very nicely. Cost is something I'm aiming for rather, because like these cost 200 gold, so having 10% lower cost is nice. And then most important thing is the health regen, so if they're taking the damage and you support them with Priestess of Ra, the extra health regen you're getting is even better, especially together with the armor from the cloth armor. Now there are a few alternatives. One of them would be just pure health, like I said it before with Priestess. Here it would be much better, because again, lower range and you need to get close, so they'll be taking damage. So health would be the alternative to Zach's Idol. Another good alternative that could be interesting, and that's the sandals from the Kartak store, because that one offers infantry armor. So if they are taking damage from infantry, the extra infantry armor is very nice, especially if you can utilize the Priestess of Ra together with that. So the healing from Priestess with the extra armor, hey, that's very nice. That can work as well. So there are a few interesting options. This is my build for Priest of Ta. Like I said, maximum range if I'm using Celeste, otherwise more focused on health. But yeah, defensive cloth armor and the religious item, I think that's the best option you can have. Moving on, Priest of Set. Now, Priest of Set is very unique priest, because unlike any other priest, this priest does not convert units, or rather does not convert in a typical way. They have this chaos conversion, or chaos in short, where instead of converting the enemy units to your side, they instead make them neutral, so they will be attacking the enemy units as well as your units. But this will actually remove gear and upgrades from them. And actually I saw that it also removes multipliers if you're playing some quest where the multipliers are available to the enemy AI. So if you're, for example, playing Marion and you decide to train Priest of Set and you apply chaos on some of the enemy units, they'll lose the bonus multipliers there, so that works as well. But yeah, Priest of Set, one thing that's very worth mentioning is their range, as you could see, it was like 32, which is pretty standard, but because they get the upgrade from their temples, they actually can get even higher range, and I believe that's 25%, so you can get easily to 40 range. So that would make this priest to have actually the highest conversion range of all the priests, thanks to this one single upgrade. Now obviously there are some other priests that get like the upgrades, but yeah, because of that I would say the Priest of Set is like best for it, because there's so many upgrades they can get. But yeah, having like 40 range, really huge range, so that's why I again support with the maximum range build, so going Ahapitep's solid gold staff. But obviously if you prefer some faster conversion on some units, this is that can be other options as well, such as the inscribed engineers, the diamond stuff of Hermes, I think it's called, or the conversion of infantry. And yes, the convert traits, they work on the chaos as well, just so you know. So you could even use the staff of the Ice King and convert the enemy siege like that, thanks to the huge range, so that is an option as well. So yeah, I still prefer the Ahapiteps, but yeah, this is an option as well. Now, one thing I need to mention, Sesostris also does affect the Priests of Set and making them apply the chaos in an area of effect, so in an area. So if you, it's just like the Priest of Tabat, instead of conversion it's a chaos, which is actually fun. Because of their huge range, they can just start applying it from a distance and suddenly, hey, the enemy units are fighting themselves. That can be actually interesting to see. So that's why I prefer the maximum range for that. Now for the cloth armor, I suggest using the cost, because like I said, they have huge range. They should not be taking too much damage, especially if you put some frontline in front of them, like for example Priest of Ta with the Priestess. This can be interesting. So that's why the cost. I'm not really worried about the defensive cloth armor here, but if you feel like, hey, I need some defense, go ahead. It is an option as well. And then again, Zahak's Idol, because of the cost. Yeah, obviously, if they take some damage, hey, they can regenerate their health back. So not really worried about that. But yeah, this would be my suggestion for Priest of Set, maximum range, and then just lower cost, because hey, you just have the range for that. Moving on, okay, Chariot Archers. This is where I actually might have things a little bit mixed up here, but yeah, what I would prefer to use on Chariot Archers would be the Raz Bow of the Solstice, because of the high movement speed. And since these are produced at stables, they'll get extra movement speed from the stable tax. So even faster units, why not? And just might guide the enemy units. Guide the enemy units, that's what I want to say. So yeah, keep your distance, attack, keep your distance, attack. Then obviously, to help them with the range and maximum damage output, arrows of the piercing frost. Because why not, right? The number one arrows you'll find. So yeah, I have nothing else to say. Divine High Vizier, yes, just for the maximum damage output. If you're worried about taking damage, then I could suggest using the Kitten of the Wolf for the extra health, but much lower damage output. And then obviously Master Assassins, because damage, health, who cares about the cost? As Egyptian, you don't really have to worry about the cost, because you have Priestess. So yeah, this is more like the kiting build. If I wanted to mix it up a little bit, I would go even like the Alexander's Ornate Bow and put it here, just so I can get the extra health, because chariots, they don't have the greatest range. If you take a look at the maximum range builds that you can get with these, I think the chariot was that buffed, right? No. So the chariot again supports this kind of thingy where you just kite the enemy units. So move faster. Again, you can keep the distance, and then attack and see farther. So yeah, you just attack from greater distance while seeing the enemy, and then you just kite them. That's why I kind of like the crossbow of the Solstice. But yeah, if you're worried about taking damage, the health can be nice. Otherwise, it would be just Marduk or Master Hunter. Both just improve the range. That's pretty much it. I have nothing else to say about chariots. I want to see more usage for chariots, but it's just... they are not that great as some other ranged units, I should say, but I like to use them once in a while. Now, elephant archers, and you could see me using them recently in the invasion of Rome, where I converted them, and that's where I would do things like this. So piercing throws, this one would be the Marduk, not the Master Hunter. Marduk, because I mean they attack fast with their H4 advisor, but the faster they attack the better, okay? Because they can, the target can die, then suddenly hey, it takes a long time before they start attacking, and so the attack rate is very nice. So I would say using Marduk is better here. But if you don't have Marduk, then Master Hunter is an option. But I also liked using the Alexander's Ornate Bow for the extra health. And then Rasbow of the Solstice was also an interesting option that I've tried. So there are a few options you can try, but then you need something more defensive. Don't use Divine High Vizier, and instead use something like Set's Best Vest. Set's Kitten was also interesting to try, but yeah, my best experience in Invasion of Rome was the Set's Best Vest. To be honest, just go maximum health. These ranged units actually have very good health, but they have no armor. So if you support them with some extra armor, that's very good. And then obviously Master Assassin's Gauntlet, because extra health, extra damage, the best thing you can get. Who cares about the cost? With the H4 advisor lowering the cost by 30%, who cares? You can just have them very cheap. And if you combine them with Timon H2, yes, very cheap. So yeah, all together very cheap. I would say very good damage output, especially because they have splash. Now, why I don't really like the maximum range on them is because the splash does not really work that well. How would I describe it? Imagine they are attacking... they are not attacking the units directly, they are attacking the ground, and obviously the further the ground is, the target is away, let's just say they're attacking in a cone, so the farther away, the wider the cone becomes. So suddenly, hey, there's much greater area they might hit, okay? So if they were like close, then hey, you're below me, I can hit you directly. But if they are like standing over here, then the area could be like this, and suddenly they are hitting like here, here, and here. So that can miss a lot of damage. That's why I don't really like the maximum range and just get close with the high health and armor and destroy the enemy units from close distance. That's what I prefer. But yeah, if you feel like going maximum range, you can, but I would not say you will see that great job being done. And at that point, I would suggest going with the Chariot Archers. So if you're looking for a ranged unit with huge range that would support your front line, that's where I feel like Chariot Archers are going to be much better option. But yeah, if you're going like pure Elephant Archer, then I'm gonna say, hey, just use some extra health and just go good damage that you can get. That's what I like about the Elephant Archers. I find it quite fun to use with the extra health rather than just going pure damage. So that's something that's somewhat enjoyable. But yeah, let's move on. Slingers. And slingers, let's just say, they are anti-ranged units. So my main purpose for slingers is always going to be anti-ranged. So that's why I'm always going to use precision sling, maximum range, bonus versus ranged units. I have what I need. Plus I get some damage pretty good damage. Okay, so if I need to like take out some other units, like for example Roman legionaries, if I have good amount of slingers, I can just burst down the Roman legionaries with my slingers if I focus them down. So yeah, the precision sling I believe is the #1 choice for slingers no matter what. Now someone might be using the Ice King sling. I'm not really a huge fan for that one. That's rather a utility that makes like enemy units move slower, but I still need to kill them, come on. And if I can just use frontline, why would I care about snare? Now, I'm using Sets Best Vest here on the Egyptian Slinger. The main reason is because their champion upgrade gives them extra pierce armor. Obviously, they are Slinger, they also start with some pierce armor, so put all together, they get very huge pierce armor. And it's a very funny situation because if I take a Priestess of Ra and then I go with Slingers to kill some strong ranged unit, like for example the one in Alfheim, the general, I actually had this fun situation. Fully upgraded Slinger took the hit and the Priestess of Ra was healing it so fast, practically immortal Slinger. I'm not joking. Against that hero bowman, the Slinger took hit, the Priestess of Ra was healing so fast that the Slinger never died. So that was actually funny to see for me. So that's why I kind of like it. It's just funny build. But yeah, otherwise, since the Slingers got buffed with extra range, you can just go pure damage if you want to, or if you want to and focus them even more against the range. There is the cloth armor that gives the damage bonus against ranged and pierce armor, the summer event one. That is also a good option for slingers. I would say that would be the #1 choice if you are looking for maximum damage output for your slingers. But this is Egyptian slinger and I just like the extra health here, and these slingers just get a huge pierce armor on top of that, so that's why I like it more defensive here. And then Legion Warlord's Greaves. Now, I don't really care about Master Assassins because the Slingers are rather early game units for me. So I prefer to use them early, and obviously I don't really want to pay the extra cost for that. For a unit that I'm just used for like 5 minutes and then just delete it. So instead I just go to Legion Warlord's Greaves, and if they take some damage, hey, they can actually survive longer. But obviously there could be some good alternatives like Bioryx's Gauntlet to reduce their cost and just not really worry about the cost at that point at all. So that would be an alternative as well. So that's my slinger, okay? Pretty much this is gonna be the same with the other slingers as well. Precision sling, some cloth armor. In this case it was more defensive one. In the other cases it's most likely gonna be like either pure damage or the summer event one for anti-ranged purpose, and then like Legion Warlord, maybe some other piece of gear as well, but I don't really remember what I put, but usually the Legion Warlord's Greaves. Okay, let's move on. There's a lot of buildings and we have the Scout. Now, Egyptian Scout is very unique because this is the only Scout that's actually using Javelin, and for this reason, Neve's Blessed Javelin is gonna be the #1 choice because the line of sight is there. What else would I put there? Now, it's harder to put like some good alternative here because Scout's main purpose is scouting, so revealing the area. That's why I prefer the line of sight. Anything else would be like giving them extra health so they can soak some damage, because for Scouts have very good health, so soaking damage could be an option as well. But in case of Javelin, I don't really know the Javelins that well, so there are a few that give health. I think there's the one rare Javelin that actually gives a lot of health. That could be a good alternative if you're going more defensive. scouts. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna be as good defensively as, let's say, the scouts with swords. So I'm just gonna stick with Neve just for the maximum line of sight. Then again, light armor is gonna be the Leucon for because of the line of sight. And then for the scout special, it's gonna be the set sash of the solstice, because this is, in my opinion, the number one scouts item, because it offers practically everything the scout needs: line of sight, movement speed, and health regen. Line of sight, hey, I reveal greater area. Movement speed, I reveal the areas faster. Health regen, if I take damage, like for example I decide to go hunting, then my scout can actually heal up. So that's why I say the set sash of the solstice is the best. If you don't have it, however, honestly this might be hard to get these days, but the, and what's it called? It's the lens, this one, Lens of Menace, for the maximum line of sight just for the scouting purpose. Otherwise there's the Scout's Protector, or you can just look at the rare items which just offer only one effect of these, okay? But Scout's Protector for maximum health, again for more defensive purpose, could be an interesting option as well. But I prefer Scouts as units that reveal the areas, so that's why I prefer the full line of sight here. But yeah, if you feel like trying out some more defensive builds, those are options as well. Moving on, camels. For camels, I'm not really sold on what they are supposed to be, in my opinion. Like, am I gonna go with more anti-calorie purpose? Then I would say go with the heavy speed of sacrifice, some light armor. Could be Ashoka, obviously, that is an option. Could be the Gazhasp. Could be Sargon, so they can soak even more pierce armor with their champion upgrade. Or could be like the one from the Cypress store for calorie armor, so they counter calorie better. Or the one from Rome, so they don't die too fast to infantry. There are options to play the camels. So right now I have equipped the Gilgamesh heavy spear. I mean, just for maximum damage output, that's what I decided to go. I don't have Zag's heavy speed here, could be an option as well, but I don't like it on camels because camels don't have very good armor. If you take a look at camels, they have practically no base armor except of the crush armor, which is typical for cavalry units. But in case of camels, you just get some pierce armor from the champion. Okay, that's it. They have no armor, so that's why I don't like the health regen on them. So I would suggest using the piercing frost. I would suggest using the Gilgamesh for maximum damage. Piercing frost, hey, because the extra health is very nice. Ignore armor works well into the late game, so that is an option. Enkidu can be interesting. It's rather a little bit more defensive variant of Gilgamesh, but it is an interesting option as well. Otherwise, it would be the heavy speed of sacrifice if I decide to focus more against the enemy calorie. So countering calorie would be with the sacrifice. Could be interesting to use Athena's long spear as well, which offers better armor, to be honest. And if you use the Userhead H2 advisor, I think that's the correct name, yes. So I mean, it could be nice to just have the extra calorie armor there as well. So could be interesting. But yeah, I would say Gilgamesh, Piercing Frost, Enkidu, Sacrifice would be the best choices you have depending on what you're doing. Now obviously light armor again goes with what you're doing. So if it's more defensive camel, then one of the defensive light armors, Sargon, Bellerophon, or Aeneas, or even the Minotaurs. Those are your options there. For more offensive, Ashoka or Gazhasp. So those are the options. So whichever you like. I'm not really sure which build do I prefer. I mean, it can be good to go full damage here because if you use Usarhead, you just have very strong camels because of that. But I feel like I prefer more defensive way, so I would go rather something like Piercing Frost than like Sargon, so they can at least soak some kind of damage. And obviously Master Assassin, maximum damage health is there. Who cares about the cost as Egyptian? So that's my camels, that's what I say. I'm not really sure, okay? So don't be afraid to experiment with these units. Moving on, War Elephants, and this unit, I'll be honest, I might be one of the few people that don't really like War Elephants. Now, they are obviously good units, but I'm not really sure how to use them properly. I always feel like hey, they can work this one time, but then I try them here and they don't really work well with me. So I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to build the War Elephants 100%. So this one might be like, I'll leave it up to you, or if you want to suggest some builds, then hey, comment section below is there. But yeah, I was trying like with some more pure offense builds, like hey, let me switch it up here. So something like this, hey, Zahak's Light Spear for the maximum damage output, then Ashoka's, and then Shield of Rostam, and that's just full damage output and kill the units faster because of their splash. It shouldn't be a problem, but then they die very fast, and War Elephants have very good amount of health, so I was like, let's switch it up a little bit with Piercing Frost, which kind of worked. And I would say this is something I would prefer more, but I still don't feel like it's the ideal situation. So I'm not really sure how to build them. So I feel like I want to try more something like this, and I should get some defensive shield for them. So like the set's Light Spear with Minotaur's Golden Hide, and it's like more defensive way, so they get more health. I could also go with Sargon, but Sargon, I don't really care about the pierce armor. Elephants already get quite good amount of pierce armor, so not really worried there. I would be worried more about the melee units. Maybe I'm just putting my advisors poorly, because usually I use the, what's his name, Sostrate? Yes, Sostrate, instead of like Lohrasp for the extra defense. That's what usually I do. So maybe I should just play a little bit more with the War Elephants. And I definitely feel like I need some better shields. And I don't like the Aeneas, don't get me wrong. It's not a bad shield, but it's ugly to look at. So that's why I'm not using it. But yeah, if I had to try some other build for War Elephants, I need to try this. So it's like Set's Light Spear, Minotaurs. I mean, Master Assassin's here, but I can switch it to Ice King's Griefs as well and just go movement speed, go faster. And if I had the Summer Shield here as well, that would be nice. That would be also an interesting option that I could try. So definitely I need to try more War Elephants with something more defensive, and I just never figured out the right build. I don't know, I just don't like them. Okay, in my opinion, they are just too expensive. That's why I don't really like them. But yeah, let's move on. But yeah, if you feel like, hey, there are some builds that I should try, then give me definitely some suggestion in the comment section, because War Elephants are like not something that I prefer to use. Caravan, okay, Caravan, it's gonna be pretty much the same what I use everywhere else. So that would be Merchant Log of the Nile, because this is the #1 Merchant Log for maximum efficiency. I don't have the Tarsos one? Wait, check. Nothing. Oh, I did not finish Tarsos here. Okay, makes sense. Because I don't have the super tasty carrot, as I see it here. But yeah, okay, Merchant Log of the Nile. I am gonna say this is the #1 choice for your caravans, because this is the most efficient merchant log that you can get if you get very good stats. Otherwise, you would use the very tasty carrot or whatever it's called, one from Tarsos that you can get as a reward. Yeah, don't pick the hammer. It's just, why would I pick the hammer? It's just weird. Pick the carrot because it's very good. You can put it on your caravans, then you don't have to really worry about your merchant logs for a very long time for your caravans. So until you get a very good log of the Nile, you won't have to worry. But yeah, merchant log of the Nile is something I recommend, and I was talking about how the caravans work, how the train versus movement speed work. I prefer using the merchant log of the Nile because overall, if I get a quest where I don't get the maximum 150 gold easily, then obviously the merchant log of the Nile is going to be much more effective than the very tasty carrot. Very tasty carrot is better for the quest where you can actually easily get the 150 gold. That's what I would say. But if I had to compare overall, merchant log feels much better with me because it's not always. If you're playing co-op, it's definitely easier for you because you can use your co-op partner to generate 50% extra gold. So at that point, yeah, carrot is there. But yeah, I'm gonna say merchant log of the Nile is gonna be the #1 choice for me. Now for cloth armor, I was usually using the movement speed for the maximum efficiency, but in this case, I switched to, not in this case, but I switched to the cost cloth armors for my caravans. Why is that? Because caravans cost quite a good amount of resources. If you take a look at the cost, it's 50 wood, 50 food, so 100 units in total. So if I reduce that cost by like 11%, that's a good discount. So suddenly, hey, my caravans don't cost that much. I don't need that many villagers on food. I don't need that many villagers on wood. It's much easier for me to produce the caravans. So that's why I prefer the cost. The movement speed usually is not that huge difference because it's either you use the menace, which is like 3%. That's not a huge difference, or you use the what's it called, Turin from Moes for like almost 6%, which again, 6% sounds nice, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily a huge difference. Again, I just feel like the discount is much better. But yeah, if you prefer the efficiency, then it's definitely going with the movement speed cloth armor. And for the labor gear, and I was using Ishtar before it got buffed. Yes, I was using it. I was one of those few people. Why did I do that? Because I usually don't like going with multiple markets, but some other players prefer using that stupidly strong advisor called Nanus. And yes, I just prefer using this. Why I prefer this? It offers some movement speed, so it transits somewhat well into the late game once I am not producing the caravans. Plus I get the training time, which means, hey, I get my caravans out faster. Now obviously if I went with pure movement speed, that means, hey, my caravans are at maximum efficiency, which is nice, but it takes a while to get there. If I just go pure training time, okay, I'm producing them faster, but then I don't have the efficiency. So I decided to just go with something in the middle, and now I'm producing them faster, as well as they are moving faster. That's why I like the Ishtar's Divine Vine. Now obviously it's up to you, whichever you prefer. Do you want to produce them faster? Do you want to make them cheaper? That is also an option with the Gerda's Gardening Essentials. That is an option as well. You can go with Ishtar's Wine, or you can just go to Delian Hood for maximum movement speed. It's all up to you. I prefer the Divine Wine here, the Ishtar's one. But yeah, it's up to you. So that's my caravan. Moving on, fishing boats. Now fishing boats, I'm using the nets of the Argo for the maximum gathering rates. That's what I like to do. Now there are also options for the higher movement speed but lower gathering rates, but there's also the craftable one for very high gathering rates, that is an option as well. Now, if I had to say movement speed versus gathering rates, it depends how far you go with the fishing boats. So I'm gonna say it's good to put some extra movement speed on fishing boats if you're going for the long distance fishing. Otherwise, you just go maximum gather rate. So I prefer Nets of the Argo because hey, it offers like very good gather rates plus some extra movement speed, although probably not really gonna use it that much. So if I had to say, most likely what you should use would be the legendary nets, the craftable ones. I don't remember what they're called, but they offer very good gather rates. So I'm gonna suggest using those instead because usually you don't really go for the long distance fishing. And if you do that, you can use some other pieces of gear to improve that movement speed. Like for example, you can get the arrows from Moas that improve movement speed. Then you can get the planing from Moas that improve movement speed. And yes, it's all from Moas, so it's very expensive. So not really that great options these days. But yeah, what I'm using are the Setred sacrificial arrows. And the main reason is the cost. Line of sight is also nice. It can help you if you, for example, run out of food in this one fishing spot and the fishing spots actually see another fishing spot, that will go there and start fishing there. So the line of sight can help you a little bit, but yeah, I really worry about the cost because these are the only arrows that offer cost reduction, and fishing boats cost 100 wood, which again is a lot, especially for H1 unit. So that's why I prefer the cost here. But that's obviously the only piece of gear I can put here. The only other piece that could reduce the cost are the ship accessories. Now this one obviously is up to you. I prefer using the Hull of Khufu because of the discount. I don't really care about the damage, I don't really care about the health, just the discount. So that's the only other alternative. And then it would be the nets, but nets without the gather rates, that looks weird to me. Plus this is already 20%, which is huge, so I'm not really worried about any extra discount at that point. But yeah, the alternative to this one would be the Ashus Rudder of the Solstice, because it offers very good discount, also training time reduction, as well as some extra movement speed. So this is the ideal item for fishing boats, as it does not give any negative stats, but all positive. Discount might not be that high, but because of the training time and fishing boats take 30 seconds to produce, that would be the number one choice there. But yeah, I prefer using the Hull of Khufu for my fishing boats because maximum discount. Now for planing, yes, movement speed, because if I go long distance, it's very nice. So honestly, there is no better planing, armor planing that I would know about. This is the number one choice. I've been looking at the armor planings so many times, never saw anything better than that. So yeah, that would be my fishing boats. So gather rates, nets, discount arrows, discount chip accessory, and then movement speed plating. So that's my option. But yeah, if you feel like you want to experiment, you can go maximum movement speed, but I'm gonna say Ashus Rudder is the best one you can get on fishing boats. But yeah, Cetres sacrificial arrows, if you don't want to put those here because they are unique as you get only one of these, then obviously the arrows for movement speed from Moas are your best choice here. Merchant transports. Now merchant transports, I would rather put the tasty carrot from Tarzos rather than the merchant log of the Nile, because merchant transports, usually when you use merchant transports, it's gonna be for transporting units, and that's where the movement speed is very useful. And if you decide to use them for trading, hey, the trade is there as well. And trading with merchant transports is not that typical. I mean, there are quests where you kind of have to do it, but it's not something like, hey, I'm doing this like 80% of times whenever I can. Oh, you just use the caravans because they are cheaper. You can just build one market and keep producing them. Now, obviously, you can build multiple docks and produce from both docks, but merchant transports cost a lot of wood. 150 for one, that's all. So, yeah, I would stick with the carrot. Now, for arrows, either you can go with the movement speed, like I said before. You could also put the sacrificial arrows, those are an option as well. Or you can go arrow. Wait, not this one. Not really Actaeon, but the arrows of Germanicus, I would say. I think I still have like these from before when I was using these arrows before the Rome was even released. So yeah, I would suggest using the Germanicus for the extra health. So when you're dropping off your units, you don't really have to worry too much about the merchant transport because hey, it can take some extra health because of that. But yeah, I would rather suggest on the maximum movement speed. Just get that, drop them off, get out. So that's why I'm also using the Artificer's Iron Plating for maximum movement speed, and then also Hatshepsut for the maximum movement speed. If you want some alternatives, then Armor Plating, I don't think there's any better alternative, but yeah, you can go with like maximum health. That is an option as well. And instead of the Ores of Hatshepsut, you can go with Hull of Khufu again. Just when you are using them for like trading, and they are very expensive, so 20% discount is very nice for that. Alternatively, hey, Ashes of the Solstice can work very nicely. Again, movement speed is there, cost is there, and also training time. So very good stats for your merchant transports. So those would be alternatives. I would say just go maximum movement speed because that's what you're gonna really use the merchant transports for are transporting units. So faster they can do that, the better. And obviously the movement speed can be used for trading as well. Now let's move on. Villagers. Now Egyptian villagers are, in my opinion, quite unique because hey, you have the priestess of Ra. Because of that, you don't really need the more gather raids from the legendary tools, and instead you can just focus on the divine hammer of construction. Like I said, you don't have to worry about the gather raids. Why? You have the priestess of Ra. Thanks to her, you have more than enough resources. So that's very good for you. Obviously you can go still like Kaveh or divine arcane hammer, but because Egyptians age up by building temples, I would say the extra construction speed is much better for you. So yes, I'm gonna say divine hammer of construction is best one for Egyptians. Not really worried about the resources through the gather raids because you have priestess, so you can ignore Kaveh, you can ignore divine Didian Archon hammer and just go divine hammer. Construction speed is very useful when you're aging up. Not really that like for the Temple of Ra, but like Temple of Set and Temple of Ta, you can feel that. And because you use the extra construction speed here, you can just make those temples even cheaper thanks to like joints of Kaveh. As you could see, I was using those. So yeah, just use the divine hammer of construction. There is nothing better for Egyptians than the divine hammer of construction. Priestesses are just so good for you. So you use priestesses and they just build faster with villagers thanks to this hammer. Cloth armor, I'm using the tunic of the collector. Obviously you can use the wood alternative from Moa as well. This is just gather raids are very good for you. Alternatively, you can make villagers cheaper, but it's again one-time bonus. And if you want to make villagers cheaper, hey, you have Agathon there, you have Thoth there. So not really worried about the cost of villagers, because if I would be worried, I just use advisors for that. So that's why I prefer using the gather raids, cloth armor. So whether you like food more or wood more. I think food it makes more sense because usually you will go with like some front line for like catapults or chariots. So at that point you will need a lot of food, especially when you're going with elephants. So I prefer the Tunic of the Collector here. And then Nebuchadnezzar's Blessed Vine. Maximum training time reduction. One thing you should know about Egyptian villagers, they have higher training time than any other villagers. Yes, these actually have the highest training time. If you take a look, you can see it's 18 seconds. That's the highest one. Typical villager has 15 seconds. Now you're compensated for that thanks to the Priestess of Ra. But obviously the lower the training time the better. So that's why Nebuchadnezzar's Blessed Vine. Not really worried about the cost because guess what? Priestess is there. Movement speed is not really that good on villagers, so this is the number one choice in my opinion for villagers no matter what. So Nebuchadnezzar's Blessed Vine, definitely pick that one. Okay, Axeman. Now Axeman, if we combine Axeman with the Sobek's H4 advisor, we have some quite beefy unit that can be actually quite powerful against the enemy infantry units. Because their champion upgrade grants us splash damage, which is, I would say, quite unique because this is like the only H2 unit that actually has splash that I can think of right now. I don't think I forgot anything, but I'm not like counting ships, okay, but like the land units. This is probably the only unit that I can think of right now. I don't think there's anything else. It's usually like in H3. I mean, if I consider it H3, then okay. You don't really get it in H2. So I guess in H3, yes. There are multiple units that can get splash. But yeah, for infantry unit, having the splash damage actually helps against the masses of enemy units, and since these units have very good bonus against infantry, they can be very nice to use in quests where you find a lot of infantry units. In case you're fighting a lot of cavalry units, that's where you use spearmen. But yeah, focus on the gears. So usually you want to use them as a front line, so that's why you need some good amount of health. So that's why I'm suggesting the Axe of the Ice King. Now, if you don't have it, honestly, this is the best axe. I suggest get the Axe of the Ice King. If you don't have it, obviously Zahak's axe is also an option because of the health regen, can help you early, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily that good for your axeman. Just go pure health, I would say. So grab the epic axe. I think there are axes that offer pure health as well, but they are not that good stat wise, so it's hard. But yeah, I would say just go like combination of damage and health, but yeah, the more health you have the better with Sobek, because hey, they are more likely to be a front line rather than just damage dealer, okay? But I like putting like some extra damage there, so that's why I'm combining the Axe of the Ice King with Alexander's Breastplate, so they do some good amount of damage as well. But yeah, if I had to say, I would rather like to focus them more against the infantry. Still keep the Axe of the Ice King because that's the best health you can get, but like the Augustus armor for the extra damage against infantry, and then the Summer Gauntlets for anti-infantry. This is Ishtar, so the other one is Ashur's, so Ashur's Gauntlet. And then like use the Ishtar for my spearmen, and hey, I counter cavalry with spearmen and counter infantry with axemen, so I can adapt to situations in quests. Would be interesting. But yeah, since I don't have that, just go damage health. Axemen can get good amount of health thanks to Solbeck. But if you want something more defensive, obviously you can go Gilgamesh. Is it? Yes, Gilgamesh. So you can go like Gilgamesh, focus with the infantry armor here. That is also an option. But yeah, I prefer health and damage here. They get very good health with Sobek, so if they can do some damage, counter enemy infantry, so my catapults can focus on the back line and then help them with the front line. Yes, that's what I like to do. Now, spearmen are gonna be very similar, using the piercing frost spear, which is because it's very good for the late game. Then health damage from the breastplate of Alexandra, and then master assassins. So pretty much the same thing as with the axeman, just it's the spearman. So if you feel like, hey, you can go more defensively, that is the, I believe it's from the Cyprus store, the Cyprus cohort spear, that offers very good amount of health. So if you are going for more defensive build for your spearman, you can use that one. Then like the Rostam medium armor for cavalry armor, or Gilgamesh if you want to, and then like the ice greaves, and just have super tanky spearmen, and they are also very cheap, so they would just like damage, but it's still fun to use that. I was using it a couple times, it was pretty fun to do that. But yeah, both of these health, damage, or just pure health, but definitely add some health to them. They are somewhat squishy early, so the longer they survive early, the better. Because then, hey, you buy some time and you can just replace them and you will not really fall that far behind. So that's what I'm gonna say. But obviously, if you can kill the enemy units, that's also good, because then you will not be losing them as well. So that's why I prefer health and damage. Now, moving on, catapult trireme. Now, here I have the Marduk siege arm, because I seriously like the attack rate on the siege boats. I always feel like they attack too slow, so the extra attack rate here is very nice to use. And to be honest, I never really felt like they need too much range, because I can always pick aim on, and if I need to get further into the land, I just have to drop the units, which can be annoying, but if I need to, I can just switch the gears for maximum range. But yeah, I prefer using the Marduks, then the Ishtar Scarfed Plating for the extra damage against buildings, and then Hadad's Remarkable Hull, because this one offers the best damage output you can get. So yeah, you can see this is more focused, just stay behind, do as much damage as possible to the buildings. That's pretty much the idea behind the catapult trainings. But yeah, if I want to, I can switch for maximum range. So Blessed Dionysus and Runic Heavy Iron Armoring for the maximum range. It's also an option. Okay, now triremes. Now triremes, that's gonna be very simple. So if I go with a lot of arrow ships, I need the range, so I can utilize the numbers. So both of the Master Hunter. Marduk is an option as well, but I don't really feel like you need the extra attack rate there on the arrow ships, so that's why I prefer the maximum range there. Now, Commodorius is burning arrows, number one choice, because hey, if you're fighting the Navy, this is the best damage output you can get against the Navy. Now, if you want to do damage to buildings, that's a different story, then you pick the piercing frost arrows. Now, for the plating, you have few options. Typhons would be my number one choice if I go for naval battles, but if I need to destroy buildings with arrow ships, then I need the extra range. I could use the extra range, so the Runic Heavy Iron Armoring is also an option. And for ship accessory, I prefer using the Ashur's Rudder here because of the cost and training time. Usually when I use arrow ships, it's in the early game, so if I need some navy fast, then Ashur's Rudder is the best choice I have here, because if I put in the Hadads, sure, the ships are stronger, but they also cost a lot more, so that's one thing I don't really like, because they cost so much more, because one of these costs 250 resources, so having extra, I mean, almost 25%, like, come on, extra 50 units, that's a lot. So that's why I prefer the Ashos right here. Okay, I don't think I need to add anything to trainees, but yeah, if you want some alternatives, I set them. Here it would be the Harats for the maximum efficiency if you want to. But yeah, let's move on. Fire ships. So fire ships, since they will be fighting enemy navy 90% of the times. What else to use than oil flask of Hatshepsut? This is the best damage output you can get against enemy navy. Now, obviously, if you don't have the oil flask of Hatshepsut, but there's Halloween event nearby and you might be able to get it, Marduk's fire flask of the unyielding is a good alternative, but in the end you will want to end up with the oil flask of Hatshepsut because that's the best damage output you can get against the enemy navy. This one is better in general, but usually what do you really destroy with fire ships? That's the navy. If you're fighting buildings with fire ships, it is an option, but you already destroy buildings quite fast because fire ships do crash damage, so not really worried about that. And fighting units is not really good idea with fire ships. I would prefer using the arrow ships for that, so that's why. Oil flask of the Hatshepsut. Now for planing, I'm using the armoring of Archimedes. Why this one? I could go with pure health, that is an option as well. If I want slightly more damage, I could use Triforce, but I never really felt like that fire ships need the extra damage. Just the oil flask of Hatshepsut is more than enough. So I prefer using something more defensive. And honestly, this is the best option you have because naval units, the ships, have some good base pierce armor already. They start at 0.5, most of them, the exceptions being the siege boats such as the catapult trident, but we don't really worry about that here. So having the, I'm not really worried about the pierce armor. Okay, then these are the fire ships, so they get the champion upgrade, granting them extra bonus damage protection. So you don't really have to worry about the towers nor fortresses anymore. So yeah, I'm not really worried about the pierce damage. So what am I really worried about? Because pierce damage is something you take from the enemy arrow ships, the defenses. So what else am I worried about? It's the crash damage. Enemy fire ships, enemy ram ships. Sure, bonus damage protection is nice, but still, you'll be taking full damage from those units, excluding the bonuses. So yeah, having extra crash armor is definitely a better option here. Not really worried about the pierce armor because they already soak a good amount of pierce damage. So that's why armoring of Archimedes, but obviously you have some alternatives if you don't like this one. And then for ship accessory, that's the Hanos heavy hull. Again, like I said, I don't feel like my fire ships need extra damage. Plus they are quite cheap, I should say. 200 resources for one. That's very nice. So that's why I don't really like adding Hadats, because the extra cost kinda ruins that good value there. Plus the total stats from Hanos for no cost increase, that's insane. And since fire ships will be at the front taking a lot of damage, yes, the extra health is very nice. No cost increase, nice, even better. Damage output, who cares? They already do good amount of damage, so I'm not really worried about that. So that's why Hanos, and that's my fire ships. So Firepod against the navy, then planing against the crush damage, and then Hanos for the extra health. Very good. Oh yeah, we are nearing the end. So siege towers. This is very similar to the fire ships. So ram head of Kroom, because obviously it's a ram unit, and ram units, most of them can attack only buildings. So that's why building damage, or the best damage output against buildings. That's the that's the best thing you can get. Now here I prefer the pure health, because most likely you'll be taking damage from enemy cavalry or infantry or their pierce damage sources. Usually you don't see the crush damage happening against siege, because how often do you actually see the crush damage like catapults, ballistas? It depends, okay? There can be situations where you can see that. But yeah, let's just go with the pure health, because why would I go with the Archimedes? Because usually units like catapults, ballistas, Valentons or throwers do a lot of damage anyway, so I don't think the extra crush armor would really help me there. Against everything else, yes, the extra health is nice. And then Legion Enforcers Wheel, just like the Hanos, having the extra health, no cost increase. I don't really care about the damage because Rams usually do good amount of damage anyway, and I don't think the extra damage really helps that much. It could be a hit here or there, but I don't really feel like I need it. I think the extra health is much more useful. So yeah, that was my siege tower, but pretty much any other battering ram you can think of. Catapults, and this is gonna be very similar to ballista, because if you have watched my Greeks, then you know what I think about it. Range damage, does crush damage, which is very nice, and most important, they have really good splash area. So what I'm really trying to do here is just maximize the damage output. Range is not needed because they already have good amount of range naturally, and if you just add set siege arm, they will have more than enough to outrange the enemy fortresses anyway. So that's why I set siege arm. So damage output for maximum damage output, especially when we're talking about the splash damage. So very good for catapults, and in my opinion the best choice you have. Maximum range is good enough to actually allow the catapults to outrange fortresses, so no need for any extra range after this. With that, Heavy Destroyer Reef for maximum damage output and Delian Adept's Wheels for maximum damage output. Now, if you want some extra range, obviously we have the Blast Throwing Arm and Blast Dionysus Throwing Arm, and then Runic Heavy Iron Armoring, but I don't think you're really gonna need it. It's just better to go with full damage output. That's my best experience. And then Palintonon, which again, it's just gonna be maximum range. So Blast Dionysus is Throwing Arm, Runic Heavy Iron Armoring, and then Delian Adept's Wheels. Why? Because Palintonons will arrive, they will unpack, and then they will be sitting in one place until you order them to pack and move again. So it takes quite a long amount of time to actually unpack them again. So that's why I'm gonna say, hey, just move them somewhere closer, unpack them, and then because of the huge range, you don't have to move them that much. So that's why the maximum range. Simple, hey? And that's the last Egyptian unit. Hopefully my gear makes somewhat sense. Like I said, camels and elephants are like something I'm really worried about, but for everything else I'm pretty much confident with choices I made. But yeah, if you feel like, hey, some other options could be made, definitely comment section below. Put some comments there, put some recommendations. I definitely will appreciate some recommendations for elephants, because I would like to have some better alternatives here. But yeah, I should definitely try more defensive shields here. That's what I should do. Maybe that's my problem. I should just put some defensive shield here. What do I know? Okay, so that's all from me for now. Hope you enjoyed this. Definitely, if you did, press the like button. If you want to see more, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to leave a comment. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.